Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Knicks Film School Pregame Show. My name is Andrew Claudio, a.k.a. GMAC, and it is time to preview another Knicks matchup, this time on Tuesday night, north of the border, against R.J. Barrett, Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickley, and the Toronto Raptors. U.S. and Canada, and our relations couldn't be any better at the moment, and the contention is only going to be on the basketball court, right? All that not being said, it's going to be fun to check in with RJ and IQ against the Raptors team that is on fire, folks. They've won 8 of their last 10, 6 of their last 7, even though they're 16-33. Don't let that deceive you. This team is rolling at the moment. We'll see if it's anything sustainable, especially against a Knicks team that will most likely not be playing with OG Anunoby. And a bit of a programming note, I'm recording this at 5:30 p.m. on Monday. So the Rockets game hasn't even happened yet. I'm taking the significant risk that something significant happened in the game against the Rockets, but we're going to try to keep it as evergreen as possible. And when I say we, I mean my good friend, Mr. S. Baraheni of the NBA Daily show for The Athletic or of Raptors Republic. S, how are you, my friend? It's good to see you. Oh, muted. Hold on. That was my fault. I muted you.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm good.
Intro. How are you?
Glad to be here. Glad to be with the hardest working people in all of Knicks universe. Yes, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you as always. Excited to talk hoops. Excited to talk Canada versus U.S. border conflicts. Let's get into it, man.
Let's do it. Let's do it. So what? How big a tariff should I charge for the Chris Boucher trade that the Knicks are going to make?
Listen, 25%. Why not? Let's keep
Got it. So can we just start there? Not the U.S.
I was about to say, all right, if you want,
Chris Boucher. That's where I want to go first. So his name has been brought up in a connection to the Knicks' interest, and the weird thing about this deadline from a Knicks perspective is we're coming on 5 years, but it's 4.5, 5 years where they're clearly going to do something at the deadline. They do a little thing, you know, it's let's get Derrick Rose. Let's get Cam Reddish. Like the Josh Hart thing was the most significant thing. Then last year, obviously, you know this, it was OG. Then like Quentin Grimes goes out. This year, because of their asset situation, it's the Chris Bouchers of the world, and it's unsure what they can actually offer that teams want. So it's a 2-part question. First, the last time we saw Chris Boucher is, I think, when he got it rolling. Like, it's from that Knicks game on that his shooting has really picked up. This guy's shooting over 40% from 3. From a on-court standpoint, like, how is this real, what he's been doing over the last couple of weeks? And from what you've seen with the Raptors, like, is he a player that should be coveted?
Like, there's a reason the Raptors signed him to a $13 million per year deal after the Tampa Bay season. And this is the expiring deal for that. Like, he was excellent for them for about 2 seasons there, where he was doing exactly what you're saying, shooting the lights out, being like a weak side rim protector who can block shots, make plays, just like an energy guy off of the bench, crashes the offensive glass, which is, I know, something Knicks fans love. And so, like, that aspect, yes, that's always been there. His role has been really inconsistent, though. And last year, he barely got any playing time, just a lot of DNP coaches' decisions. And I think part of that was they were shuffling through their roster, figuring out what they had and what they were trying to do. He was also being dangled at the deadline to see what they could get. And because he wasn't playing, they couldn't even get like a second-round pick in terms of return. Now he is playing. Now he's been a big part of it. And I think they've changed their approach to, like, hey, let's play our guys to showcase them. And obviously the showcase has worked really well with Chris Boucher. I think he's a guy who can help, man. I think he's a guy who can just punch in for like 15, 20 minutes a night. You really sometimes don't know what you're getting from him, because if the shot isn't there, it's tough for him to be as effective offensively. But you're always going to get energy. He's always going to crash the offensive glass. He's always going to be a guy who's going to like try to be physical and active on the defensive end. And I think just as a option to go to in the front court as a backup big makes sense for a lot of teams, including the Knicks. I could see the Knicks going after a guy like Boucher. if I had to pick between Boucher, Precious, Jericho Sims, and like the kind of allotment of front court guys you guys already have outside of Mitchell Robinson, there was like a pecking order there. I probably would have like Chris and Precious kind of neck and neck. You know what I mean? Depending on what you need. They actually used to be kind of like the terror twins for the Raptors in a lot of ways, just because they brought in so much chaos off of the bench. Darko would bring those two in at the same time, and they would just cause so much chaos, good and bad, because they have their highs and lows. So he's that kind of player. What interest that provides for you? I'm not sure from like a salary perspective and all that, like what players would even be possible to get moves for the $10 million salary that Boucher is on right now,
So I guess you could just ironically just trade Precious. This is where Jeremy comes in.
little swap. Yeah.
This is where Jeremy's going to yell at me for not knowing the exact numbers.
Right.
That I'll leave that to the capologists to make it work. I just know the Knicks are interested. The stats that I was alluding to earlier for Knicks fans who are unaware, in his last 18 games, which starts the game before the Knicks beat the Raptors. The Knicks have played the Raptors 3 times so far this year. The first time they played at Madison Square Garden, 2 days before Christmas, December 23rd. Yeah. Chris Boucher at that point, that night he shot 4 or 5 from 3.
Yeah, he had like 10 points in like 1 minute or something like that.
So the garbage time game in January was the one where we were like,
the one I'm thinking about.
Maybe this is what's happening. The game before that other one. So we're going from December 22nd on, so the last 18 games, 59.5% from the field. So that's 60% shooting, 51% from 3, and then 88% from the line. It's why, look, I'll leave the people that are better with money I'll leave it to them.
I'm actually trying to do it on the fly right now for us.
So my question would be, can they keep Precious and Boucher, or would Precious have to go out? Because that would be the irony that you're not necessarily looking to trade.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming you're not willing to move Deuce, right? Like this is not
in this deal. Not
in this deal, right? So like it's kind of tough to cobble up the $10 million salary for you guys unless it includes Precious. And so it'd have to be like Precious, Jericho Sims campaign type of thing. And even then you're still $94,000 short of it being an actual viable trade. So it'd be a tough way to do it. It's a tough.
More money has to go out, right?
Yeah, more money has to go out. So you're looking at I don't know, like Dadier, or I'm not even sure. I don't think they would do that. I don't think the Knicks would do that. You know what I mean? So, or Kolek, and I don't think the Knicks would do that either. So
this is where the compensation is, I think, the bigger question. Yeah. I'm not looking at him as a replacement for Precious or for a potential Mitchell Robinson replacement. I'm looking at him as a replacement for Landry Shamet in the rotation. Like he's a backup 4 as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's a Raptors pod. The Knicks are going to be without OG Anunoby for what it looks like it might be a week or so. Yeah. So we'll see how long they potentially could need someone that can shoot like him. Maybe you get it. I mean, is Agbaji available? Would they potentially be able to include Mitch in the deal and make
I think they'd probably want Deuce back if that's something like that's probably how it would shake out. Because like the Raptors are at the point where I think they actually prioritize players over picks. They did that with the OG trade. I think they're typically going to try to get, like, if they can get a player in the door that they like, which I imagine Deuce is one of those guys. That would probably make sense for me. I don't know. We're doing a live trade negotiation right now.
We are. Yeah. The White House should get us involved in negotiations. We might actually get some progress there. Yeah, exactly. I look at that type of deal, and it's the fringe deal the Knicks are going to be looking at least through this trade cycle. The Raptors, on the other hand. Let me before we get to all of that, I want to read Jeremy's trade idea. So it's like Mitch and the 2026 Wizards. So the Wizards pick would be the one that we have that turns into 2 seconds. So it's Mitch and Pacome Dadier for Boucher and Agbaji. You don't think they would do that, right? Like Deuce would probably have to be in the deal.
That Wizards pick is protected, right? Top 10 protected.
It's top 10, becomes top 8. It's going to end up being 2 seconds.
It's going to
2026 and 2027, which with the Wizards, unless they get Cooper Flag, that could be the 33rd and 34th pick in the drafts.
Sure. Yeah. I don't think they would do that with Ochai, to be honest with you. Okay. I don't think so. Yeah. If you, instead of Ochai, you say Davion Mitchell, then yes, there you go. That probably makes more sense to them.
Can I tell you a fun story about Davion Mitchell? So
sure. Yeah.
Nothing to do with anything important, but it's a film school story. So a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, maybe something I saw someone
Benji? About. Okay. All right.
So what happened was we relaunched our Patreon with a Brunson tier where you get film analysis, Benji Ritholtz's grade book, where he gives out his grades after every game. He actually goes into detail, writes a mini newsletter. Nice. Our other film analyst, DJ Zulo, does an extra film session each week or every other week, does a mailbag pod with our patrons. It's a really good stuff. I highly recommend it. Shameless plug. Nice. But in honor of the launch of said tier, we did a draft. And it was an X's and O's draft. And so you had to draft like a team defense, a team offense, a best on-ball defender, a best rim protector, a best isolation scorer, So
right.
It was a fun concept. We get to the last round and Benji drafts Davion Mitchell as his point of attack defender. And we made fun of him for drafting him because he wasn't playing at the time.
Right.
And since said draft, and I say all this because it'd be hilarious if he's the one that comes back in the deal and the Knicks end up with Davion Mitchell after a month and a half of laughing at Benji for it. Since said draft, Davion's got some playing time. Also, the Raptors are winning basketball games now.
Second in plus minus for the Raptors, man. I mean, Chris Boucher and Davion Mitchell are second and third in plus minus this year for the Raptors. Like they are impacting winning in a major way. And honestly, I don't hate Benji's pick for on-ball defense. I swear to God, if there's one thing that Davion Mitchell can do in the NBA, it's guard the basketball at the point of attack. It's literally the one thing he can do.
The nickname is Off Night, right?
It's for a reason.
Yep. For a reason. Benji, another man has co-signed your pick there, Benji.
I'm here.
So we're there. Speaking of the Raptors not losing, they've won 8 of their last 10. They're climbing up the lottery standings, and just doing like the NBA stats sort of what they've done since then. I noticed RJ has shot the lights out. That's when I noticed what Boucher is shooting over the last 10 or so games. From a Raptors fan standpoint, if you could give me the temperature of Raptors fans, sure. Are you able to enjoy 8 out of 10 and 6 out of 7? Or is it like, damn it, we're winning too much? Is that at all part of the calculus here?
I'd probably say about like 70 to 80% of fans are like, we're winning too much. Slow down. Get back to what you guys were doing before. And I think there's also a portion of those fans that are like, well, it's cool that they're winning and winning in ways that are intriguing and fun, and like the guys are developing. And so if they're winning like this, then it's okay with me. And so I don't know. I'm kind of like split in the middle there, because at the end of the day, they're like, let me double check the standings here, but it's going to be pretty tough for them regardless to get into the top 4 or bottom 4 of lottery odds. You got Utah, New Orleans, Washington, and Charlotte, and it's pretty tough to get there. It's between Toronto and Brooklyn for that 5th spot. And I think that's where the Raptors bench guys who are the most often mentioned for getting traded, in a Bruce Brown, in a Chris Boucher, Davion Mitchell, Kelly Olynyk, like those 4 have been massive in this win streak. If you look at the numbers over the last 10 games, I think their bench is averaging something like 40 points off of the bench. And most of it is Boucher, Bruce Brown, Kelly, those guys contributing. And so that is a huge part to what the Raptors are doing right now. They're playing their vets, and their starters are good enough to compete and be involved in games. And their vets are smart enough to kind of keep the ship going while that's happening as well. But they also have a crop of young guys who deserve playing time towards the end of a season. You think of their draft pick, 19th overall, Jacoby Walter. You think of Jonathan Mobo, who's spending tons of time in the G League right now. Ulrich Shamshe is like the 59th pick in the draft that they like, is a big, kind of like utility knife, big man. And they also have Jamal Shed, who is kind of slots in to that Davion Mitchell role very quickly. So like they have those guys that are kind of waiting in the wings to get more opportunity. And so there's this easy transition that could happen at the deadline where those guys get moved. You provide some of these younger guys with minutes. And so you naturally start losing games more. And I think that's where my head is at, where it's like they will prioritize development. Even Darko, before the game against not the Clippers, but before that, basically he was asked, he's like, hey, like you guys are winning now. Are you guys like looking at the standings to see how far away you guys are from the play-in? And he's like, we are focused on player development this season. And so that gives you the answer to where they're at with it too. They're not trying to get into that 10 spot. That doesn't seem like the goal.
Well, so to your point, first of all, the 4 players you mentioned, I just did the math, 37.8 points exactly. So right. Those are 4. I mean, look, I'm staring at it and it's like, oh, what is it like to have a bench that contributes and scores points? And it's no wonder that the Knicks are staring at the Raptors to potentially find a bench piece. I think the other part of it, the last time I believe you and I spoke, which I guess was back in the December game, was that the starting 5 of Scotty, IQ, RJ, Grady Dick, and Pirtle hadn't played any minutes together or a handful of minutes together.
They played 5 minutes anytime ever. I think they played 5 minutes last season, but they'd never played this season.
So that's where I'm going with this, is that there was a portion of this season that when we had last talk, we wanted to see what that sample was. Like, what does it look like when those 5 were on the floor together? And if they were winning and it was because that starting 5 was clicking and it's like, we're getting a proof of concept, this is information gathering right now, there's something you could take away from it. To the Knicks fan that does not watch a ton of Raptors, in the 180 possessions that those 5 have shared the floor this season, they are -9 with a 20th percentile offense and a 50th percentile defense. It's not like it falls off a cliff, but is it defeating at all, or disconcerting, I should say, that the success they've had has nothing to do with their starting 5, and that seems to be, a bit of a struggle and as of right now, an unknown for the Raptors?
Yes and no, because I think that number is a little bit misleading when you watch them for a extended stretch, because like the defense is the issue recently, especially in that starting group. When you have Quick, Grady Dick, and RJ as your point of attack perimeter defenders, it just leaves a lot of openings that Scotty and Jakob have to clean up. And so they're near the top of the league when it comes to opponent drives per game. They kind of bleed points when it comes to that starting group. That's why they went on this win streak when Davion Mitchell started in place of Emmanuel Quickley when IQ was hurt. And that's not to say anything about Quick and his future. This is something that people talk about a lot. No, it doesn't mean that Quick doesn't fit with this team and whatnot. It's just that Davion is such a great on-ball defender that he stops those drives right there and then. And so it creates this ecosystem where Scotty and Jakob are in positions more. You don't have Grady and RJ being hunted out, and the defense plays better that way. Like I'm pretty sure if I were to look it up right now, that lineup with Davion in with the starters is better than the Quick one. And I think
6 points better. You're right.
Yeah. There you go. Right. So I think that's part of the calculus of what's going wrong with that starting group. But admittedly, like especially to start with that group at the start of January, they were going through this patch where they had no idea how to play with each other. Like offensively, they just didn't know what it meant. Who's going to get the ball? Who are we looking for shots? What's the offensive system we want to play? And I think recently, especially over the last couple of games since Quick has come back, they look like they know what they're trying to do. They know what the objective is. They know they're trying to get the ball to Scotty, high post area. Let's make some plays. Let's get him some easy buckets. And then you have shooters roaming around him. If nothing happens, cool. Swing to RJ, empty side pick and roll with him and Jakob Poeltl. And then that creates an opportunity for you. So like they have a function to what they want to do. There's like a goal and a process to what they want to achieve offensively. And so it looks a lot better over this win streak than it did at least to start January. That's the in between the lines answer of why that starting lineup hasn't worked. I actually think individually we've seen a lot of growth from all of those guys, which is why I'm taking it to the bank. Like I'm saying this, they're kind of working on things in their own way. Maybe not as much Quick because we just haven't seen him. He just played his 10th game or 11th game of the season. So it's hard to really focus on what he hasn't done. Everybody else though, like you can look at tangible results of how much they've grown throughout the season, which is, I think it's a win overall for the Raptors.
Like I said, it's 180 possessions. And I think, so 180 is like the beginning of the sample size where I start to not make any conclusions, but at least if you get an extreme, like the Knicks used to have lineups like this, honestly, that evolved quickly, where you'd get to like 150, 180 possessions, and you're like, I'd like to see more of this, just to see if this is real.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're at with the starting five. Like, I'd like to see more of this to find out if that -9 is real. And then it's like over the next 180, you could start to make some conclusions if it starts to continue to be that way or starts to go the other direction. I don't have this problem in New York because the Knicks starting five has played more possessions than the next two lineups combined, which is weird because OG Anunoby is now going to break that trend. The Knicks starting five will not be intact for this match. Okay, I'm assuming this lineup will not be intact because again, we're recording this before before the Rockets or the Raptors game. I want to check in with IQ and RJ. I've obviously heard a lot about RJ this year from the first time we talked and how RJ was playing. The campaign for RJ's All-Star candidacy from Raptors fans was just so fun to watch. Not even from like I'm rooting for him, which at this point I think I am, but just from I know these roads, the RJ hive that came out of nowhere to be like, what do you mean you can't root for Scotty Barnes? You have to root for RJ Barrett. Yeah. And it's even more so because there's a national pride thing.
And he's Canadian. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. I mean, look, 100%. It's funny because when the voting results came out, him and Scotty got the same amount of votes. They were 18 and 19 in voting. So like,
okay.
And there's something there with the amount of love that RJ gets, even though Scotty was getting most of the promo for all-star nods and whatnot. So like, people love RJ. I think like he's definitely a fan favorite because he's Canadian, and part of the growth that he's had, talk to Darko about this, is like how much he actually takes pride in playing for the Raptors. Because he really takes things. I think the last time we talked, we were talking about his road and home splits and the difference between that. And that's gotten a little bit better since we talked. He's kind of taken more focus of like getting prepped on the road versus being at home. And overall, he just plays better when Scotty is available and free. He's playing more efficient basketball. Stuff is easier to get to. I was talking about some of the like secondary actions that RJ runs with Jakob Poeltl. Him and Jakob have really good chemistry in the pick and roll. And so that flows seamlessly with what RJ wants to do, get to the basket, drive in transition, et cetera, et cetera. He's had a good season. And I know like there is a faction of Raptors fans that are like, what if we trade for Brandon Ingram? I do not see the vision there. I do not believe that is a guy who makes sense. It just, especially if it means trying to move off RJ, I think like it'd be more worthwhile to see what a younger RJ will do over the next couple of seasons for you. Even if you decide you don't want to extend him, then bringing in Brandon Ingram, who is an injury prone player, who has his flaws of his own for sure. I just don't see the value in that. So for me, it's like, see what you have in RJ over the next couple of seasons. Obviously, I'm not sure if he's going to be a guy who's like long-term for you, but it's a really, really great story to have, especially as they're kind of transitioning to something new.
When is his current deal up again?
He's up for extension this summer, which will be interesting.
You kind of just answered where my next question was going to go, because so what actually happened the last time you were here was the Michael Grange article came out, like as we were recording, or it was like the day that like it happened that morning, and I hadn't read it yet.
Yeah,
and it hit me so hard reading it that I actually went and got him to do the next pregame pod, so that way I could really deep dive, what RJ's been through since being in Canada. The RJ future with the Raptors conversation is very fascinating to me, because if there's one place that you look, I thought Luka Doncic was untouchable, so I hesitate to ever use that word again with a player. But one of the places where I would assume that he's pretty safe bet to extend there is a national hero. And I know that he already gave Quickly the deal. Scotty's is already on the books for what he's making. To extend RJ, that's a lot of money in that big three, quote unquote.
Yep.
And I've heard the Pelicans connections to Toronto. So I mean, your best projection here, do you foresee them extending RJ, or do you think they'll make an even bolder move to Nico Harrison and trade a national hero?
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I think that is probably the toughest read to make moving forward with the Raptors, because they also have Jakob Poeltl, who's extension eligible. And given where they're at in their rebuild cycle, they even had a report. I think it was Michael Grange who did the report, but they said that basically only Scotty and Grady Dick are untouchable to them. Guys that they would not be willing to move. And so I don't necessarily know if the answer is an easy and straightforward extension, especially with the way that he's played in Toronto. And you could argue that he's played much, much better in Toronto than he did in New York for various reasons. It's hard for me to see him wanting less than what he makes right now. He probably wants more. And so you have to reconcile with the fact that you're probably going to have to pay RJ Barrett more than $30 million a year. And so now you have RJ, Scotty, and IQ combining for probably $100 million of your contracts. So that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money to kind of commit to a core that you're not necessarily even sure is going to be your full core moving forward. You have to be really sure about this type of stuff. Like, you have to have a proven concept, making the playoffs, making the play-in, being really frisky, making an all-star nod or two. Like, that's the type of stuff you need to see from these guys to make you feel confident in extending them. And I don't think that you're there yet at all.
And I imagine if you get some lottery luck this offseason, then it really starts to bubble. Because if you got Cooper Flag coming in and you have a front court of Jakob, Scotty, and now eventually Cooper Flag, kind of makes the RJ situation a little bit different, Yeah. It makes it more of an explainable move to your fan base. So it's like, yes, we had to trade RJ, but we got Cooper Flag in here. Mm-hmm. Having a backup, having a competent explanation for your fan base is something a lot of GMs could.
Well, one in particular needs to.
I'm sorry, man. It's been 48 hours, and they traded Luka Doncic. I can't understand it, man. You know how pretzel brained, or I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm now creating that. Like, my brain has been twisted into a pretzel. Yeah. Trying to comprehend what happened. Yeah. Like Simmons said this yesterday, the levels of shock that you go through, that this created a new tier. Yeah. The level of shock we all were in wasn't like, oh my God, that trade. It was, oh, Shams got hacked. It's the first ever the reporter got
denial. Hacked. Yeah, it was denial.
And the conspiracy theories that have come out of it, people saying the league wanted to boost ratings, so they sent Luka to the Lakers. There's the Trill Bro dude. I don't know his real name, but he's got a really funny persona online. Like, the best conspiracy theory I heard is that the new Mavs owners, because billionaires obviously have more information than all of us, they know that this is like a wrap for the planet this year. And they want to. Right. Yeah. They know Luka's out for the year, so they figure they might as well get a healthy player. They knew that, and they know that this is not just Luka's last year, but the planet's last year. Right. That's how much of a, what are you doing? Because it was never it was a shock that Luka got traded. It was an unbelievable reaction that he got traded for that, Mr. Harrison. So
I still don't believe it. It still feels weird that this even happened. And to your point, shock is not the right way to do it. It feels like we're all grieving because the first thing we did was denial. You know, we were all denying that this was even possible. Dave Dufour, my guy for The Athletic, he brought about like the idea of like, this trade is so dumb that it changes your idea of what the NBA could be.
Oh,
like you throw out anything you ever thought of. This just shatters all of it. It was a like wrecking ball to what people thought the NBA was. And I completely agree. Cause like what can you even expect now? What can you say is like tangible and real anymore? It doesn't make sense.
So the report came out, I guess, when you're listening to this, everybody, yesterday from Jake Fisher that KD, that the Suns are taking calls.
Yeah, they're listening.
Kevin Durant, right? Like from some people I've talked to, it sounds more like a Danny Ainge type of, he's not available, but if you make me an offer, I'll consider it. And then no one makes that offer because his price is always too high.
Yeah.
Like the conversation in the Knicks Film School faculty chat was like, what if it was cat for KD, and then the Knicks just have the ultimate death lineup? And I was like, I can't call.
No, I can't do that. Yeah,
I wouldn't do it because I value a cat, but like, I mean, it's on the table. Luka got traded. For the rest of my life, it's on the table. Luka got traded.
Yeah, you know. Well, we heard a report today where it's like the Warriors are looking to add both LeBron James and Kevin Durant. Sure.
Why not?
Yeah,
Luka got traded.
Yeah,
it's all in play now.
Yeah.
And to your point about the grieving part of it, we're grieving it because it's more just like a new world that we've entered into, and we're all processing it.
Yeah, exactly.
What Mavericks fans are going through,
that's grieving.
Now, that's actual grief to the point where, look, I said this on Game Theory, Nico, you better be right. Like, you need to win a championship. It's the only way.
Let me ask you a question, because actually, I think asking a Knicks fan and someone who covers the New York Knicks is actually really great idea for this. It's been such a long time since the Knicks won a championship. I don't need to remind you of this, but
thanks.
Sorry.
You're good.
If they were to win, if the Mavs were to win a title, would that actually change the result of this trade for you?
I think so. If I were a Mavs fan, you're saying?
Yeah. And I think that banner, because I know how important a championship is.
Right.
Me. So like how,
So let's play this out. If they traded if Leon Rose traded Jalen Brunson,
right,
for for Anthony Davis,
right? Just do it. Yeah,
Deuce starts at the one.
Yeah.
And we're going Anthony Davis, and Josh Hart comes off the bench, and there's the one player left in the Villanova starting five is Mikal Bridges, right? They win a title. It's like, thank you for your service, Jalen. I think it would be thank you for your service, Jalen.
Yeah.
You know what? And now that I'm doing the thought exercise, I want Jalen Brunson on the court when the Knicks win a title.
Right.
So
exactly.
I can't even fathom. I can't even fathom like the transactional nature of like, I'm just here to watch the result. Like the process matters to me, and the attachment I've grown to a lot of these players. It's honestly why like I mourned Julius Randle when he left, when they clearly upgraded. Right. And I think that's what Mavericks fans are going through right now, that they so clearly downgraded and downgraded like for the next decade. We've had honestly, I was thinking about the RJ quickly trade last year and how Knicks fans were reacting, because I've gone through a couple of Mavericks pods over the last 24 hours to see reactions. Yeah. And I remember some Knicks fans feeling like, you ripped the heart out of this team. Like, I loved RJ. I loved quickly. Yeah. And like OG may make us better, but like I was in love with them. Now, I mean, dude, I got over it quick because OG fit like a glove. But you know.
I relate to that feeling because I think a lot of Raptors fans resonated with the DeMar Kawhi of it all. Like DeMar still is a beloved Raptor, and so that trade felt so transactional. It felt kind of grimy to even do. And then once the ring ended up there, you're like, well, you know, I guess it actually felt really good. You know,
but like to the point we've already made. Even after the DeMar trade happened, it was like, but you got Kawhi. Like you did upgrade.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, the Mavs did the flip. It's
like they traded Kawhi for DeMar.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry to say it. It's exactly like that, unfortunately. Yeah. It's like Kawhi about to enter his prime if he was healthy.
Right. But you're also, and the Mavs are still like, we want to win a championship with DeMar. We believe DeMar is better.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
If only you had a proof of concept of can you make the finals with that guy,
Yeah, right.
Like if you just did it. Or maybe he make first team All NBA. Like he's done 5 of the first 6 years.
And you went all in. You've traded multiple picks. You've done the Kristaps Porzingis experiment. You recorrected it. You tanked for a top 10 pick. You got Derek Lively, center of the future, perfect. PJ Washington, Kyrie Irving, all that stuff. And then we're trading the guy we've been building around for.
Honestly, I gotta give Sam Vecini a lot of love because he pulled me on his pod Saturday night after it happened. I guess Sunday morning technically, and he was doing his very best to be like show grace and like maybe they have more information than we do. There's got to be more than this. I was so ready to be so reckless on that pod and be like, I just have a question. Are NBA GMs also drug tested? Yeah. Like, I wanted to know that, like, that would be the information I would need. Like, he didn't make this trade sober. Got it. Right. And that would have just explained so much. And like, he woke up the next morning like, fuck, I hit send. All right. Well, now I got to go to a press conference and explain it. Time will tell. Time will tell. I think history's going to make it known that Nico Harrison's name is synonymous with the guy that traded Luka Doncic, but I guess we'll see. That rabbit trail brought to you by the fact that I don't want to talk about the Knicks necessarily because I don't know what's going to happen in the Rockets game, and we're recording a day early.
Look, right now, truthfully, the games are kind of secondary to what's happening on Thursday with the trade deadline.
True. That is true.
And I think that applies partially to what the Knicks are doing and if they want to upgrade and maybe get some players in there to add to their rotation. And from the Raptors' perspective, they have 4 guys that they're pretty much dangling in all these trades to try to facilitate. Maybe it might be a Jimmy Butler trade, Brandon Ingram, whoever, right? But like both these teams are in a position where Thursday is more important than
Tuesday. Yeah.
You're right. So it's where we're at.
Oh, and we got some news.
We got a trade, didn't we?
Not a trade. Mitchell Robinson has been cleared for contact and full practice.
There you go.
Says.
There you go. Oh, I have some more news for you.
What?
James Edwards, Tibbs on Knicks OG Anunoby injury timeline. It's just a mild sprain, and we'll see how he responds. When he asked if he'll play tomorrow, he said it would be premature for me to say.
That's all medical. Ask medical. That's the Tibbs answer.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad
so Mitchell Robinson cleared. There you go.
There you go. So he can be in the Chris Boucher trade. There you go.
There you go.
Sounds good. I'm kidding. Knicks fans that want to see Mitch play. So I got to be honest with you. This is probably how we can talk about the Knicks. And so this will be the last thing before I let you get out of here. The last piece to said puzzle, like whether they get it at the deadline Thursday or whether it's just like a buyout guy, the Mitch aspect of it has been so difficult to try and project because like I don't know what to expect from Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
Availability wise. I don't know how you can count on him to be healthy for 4 playoff rounds. I don't know how you could be able to count on him to play 4 regular season weeks.
Yeah. You've reached like Rob Williams territory in the sense where it's like, and if we could get like half a season, we'd be ecstatic, type of thing.
Oh my gosh. If you got half a playoffs, man, he is part of the reason they won the Philadelphia 76ers series.
For sure.
He was so clutch in guarding Embiid. And that's honestly why I would lean toward keeping him and saving him for that series. If the Knicks get stuck in a 2-7 against Embiid, or if you're playing against like the right bit, like Giannis, even, although I think the Knicks would actually kind of cook the
this version
Bucks for 7 games and drop coverage. I just like, all right, like Jalen's got this. Like Cats just cooked the Bucks in both games that they have played this year.
Totally.
But it's why like I keep processing the Knicks as their 7 deep. It's their main 5, Deuce and Mitch. And it's why I wonder if they're approaching the deadline the same way, that like we get Mitch back and we need one more guy that can be in a Tibbs rotation, but then cannot be if he's not good. Is that like a fair assessment from your outsider perspective on the Knicks?
I mean, look, from an outside perspective, that's what I would have assumed anyways. So I agree that it's a 7-man rotation. I think like now you're looking at trying to upgrade that 8th spot. Now it's like the assortment of like the Precious campaign kind of rotation of guys to kind of go through that. The
Landry Shamet experience.
The Landry Shamet experience, right? My question there is like, what archetype is it? Is it the backup big stretch 5 type of guy that you're looking for? Is that the type that Knicks fans would want? Like,
if you could get it, yeah, right. Probably, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. Because I'm thinking
then you could also shift Precious to the 4 in your backup units too, like a Boucher or a Valanciunas. That's why Boucher fascinates me so much. If he can, if this shooting's real, he's your backup 5, and you can play him with Cat if you want to as well. And then Precious can just, like, it doesn't matter what center he's with. It's always with a spacing 5.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking like, even if it's not Boucher, like a guy who makes the same salary as Boucher is Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah. His name's come up. Yeah.
I'm sure his name has come up. A guy who makes much less, but probably would cost you a pick. And I'm not sure what the pick situation is for you
Washington.
guys.
It's the Washington pick. We have the Washington pick, which becomes
so like Walker Kessler is another guy, and he doesn't make a ton of money, So
Danny Ainge. Oh, I will say, I would give up Deuce in a Walker Kessler deal. But I don't think Danny Ainge would do that deal.
Right.
Yeah. I also was ready to give up Deuce in a Walker Kessler deal this summer before they also traded Dante DiVincenzo. So maybe I'm not as inclined to give up.
Yeah, because then you're like, where's the extra juice on the perimeter? Yeah. And I think even as we were kind of negotiating the whole Chris Boucher trade, I'm like, can I get Deuce? Like, so I think the Knicks probably feel the same way and don't want to move off Deuce for kind of just like an upgrade to upgrade type of situation.
Yeah. Again, you're dealing with Zanuck and Ainge, which what the Knicks have to, like the hypothetical KD conversation that I was telling you about. Yeah, the Knicks get beaten by Houston in any negotiating or bidding war. The Raptors do have a ton of guys that I'm interested in. That's for sure.
Yeah. Kelly Olynyk even would be an interesting guy, right?
I am surprised after extending him, or I guess trading for him last year. Did they trade for him last year or extend him last year?
They traded for him and Ochai. So they mostly traded for Ochai, but Kelly was just sort of part of the deal that they made. So it's kind of weird, but I don't know. I think with Kelly, it's more like he clearly could be used on a playoff team, and him for like 15, 20 minutes type of night, even 10 minutes, where he just comes in, makes some great passes, makes some shots and calls it a day. Like that kind of makes sense for what Kelly is at this point in his career. He's older, so you know what you're working with. But I actually think in the Knicks system where it's like, hey, Cat at the top of the key, right, making plays, Kelly can do that to a T. Like that's the type of guy that Kelly is. Chris, not so much. Chris, you're getting like a Precious type in Chris, who can
better shooter. Yeah. So gun to your head, what's who's still there on Thursday for the Raptors?
I think if I had to do an over-under on the 4 guys that we've talked about, Bruce, Davion, Kelly, Boucher, I think over 2 of them are traded.
You take what about 2.5? So you doing 3? So you're already doing 3. What if
I'm doing 3. I'm doing 3. Okay. If I say over 3, then are you asking me if all of them are going to get traded? I don't think
why not?
No, I don't think all of them. I think if the one guy that's likely to not get moved is Davion.
Okay.
Or actually maybe Bruce, because Bruce is the hardest to move. $23 million in salary is tough to move around unless you're getting involved in a Jimmy Butler trade or whatever, right? To facilitate a deal, because otherwise it's kind of tough to move $23 million, especially with the new CBA.
And do you said they were looking for players back in some of these deals. Do you know what the final, if we just want something back for him, guys, would be like, if it's Bruce Brown, would you take back 2 seconds for him? Not that the Knicks 2 seconds would be, but
yeah, I think so. I think for all of those guys, I think if they push comes to shove, seconds would probably make sense. But I think they're trying to just be opportunistic with it. Like my favorite deal is if the Warriors somehow end up trading for Jimmy Butler and Andrew Wiggins gets rerouted to Toronto, and not just because he's Canadian. I actually think that would be a really fun thing to do. You think it's because of the Canadian thing?
Because it is because of the Canadian. I know he's like, you can be good.
I swear to God, it's not.
But that would be so fun. Have you need to keep Olynyk in that sense. Have RJ Olynyk.
Sure. Why not? Yeah, bring Corey Joseph back too.
Why not? Did the Thunder come back to play in Toronto this year? Like, just have them wear the jerseys for one night, you know?
Oh, man. No, dude, I think I just like those types of players is what I want to build around Scotty Barnes. If I'm the Toronto Raptors, it's like 3-and-D wings who can do a little bit of everything. So, yeah, if you can get opportunistic and do that, yes. That's the type of deal that I'm looking for. Yeah.
Well, we will see what the Raptors do on Thursday, or I guess leading up to Thursday. No, as we've said throughout, no trade is too crazy to suggest. So
no.
We'll see if they end up with Andrew. You know what? Let's see if they end up with Shea at this point.
Sure. Why not?
Get the whole national team on
Masai Ujiri calls Sam Presti. No one else knows about it, and they do a Scotty Barnes for Shea swap. You know?
Oh my God. That you just brought up another element. Didn't call a second team.
No, didn't call a soul. Actually,
not a single second team.
I should say the Athletic.
Oh no, he called the Jazz too. That's right. He called the Jazz.
Yeah. The Athletic reported that they actually had a conversation with one other team, but it didn't progress very far.
Okay. So. Was it Milwaukee?
They didn't say.
They just called another team. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I talked to our buddy from the Athletic, Fred Katz, who basically said like, they talked to one other team and like nobody knew about this.
Right.
Like you're probably the third or fourth biggest trade asset in the sport, and you didn't poll the league.
Yeah. You didn't ask.
Just like who wants to, like, if you're worried about the fan base revolting, so you make the trade anyway? Like, wasn't that a sign that you shouldn't do the deal?
Right. Have you been asked what the Knicks would offer?
So, you know what's funny? The conversation, I haven't been asked that, but the thought I did have was if Luka became available at the beginning of the summer, the Knicks traded 5 picks for Mikal.
Yeah.
Julius Dante and a pick for Cat.
Yeah.
Take that whole trade package that you did for both
and just throw it in
and trade it for Luka.
Yeah.
Is that like too much? Or would that have just,
that would have been perfectly
I'd probably leave that being like, the Knicks have no picks left, but they have Jalen Brunson and Luka and Josh Hart and like OG Anunoby and Mitch, like, and pick a center at that point. I'll play center a couple nights. Like, you rebuilt the team that made the conference finals, except Jalen Brunson's better and OG Anunoby's
better, right? Yeah.
That's I think the biggest.
Yeah,
out of it just being stupid to trade Luka. What you got back, you could have gotten so much more.
I would give a 25% stake in the Raptors to trade. I have no problem.
I would give. Someone asked me if you could have got Luka like what's the baseball comp to this? And it's like it's like Juan Soto for someone said Juan Soto for Mike Trout. And I don't even think that's comparable. It's like Juan Soto for DeGrom now, because DeGrom is like hurt and injured, and you don't know how many more innings he has left in his career. But yeah, it'd be like if you're trading with cities, and it's like, all right, the Jets will throw in Aaron Rodgers, we'll rename the garden to Luka Square Garden. Like whatever it takes to get Luka.
Whatever it takes, it doesn't matter.
And Nico Harrison was like, fine, only one pick. Like you just stop negotiating.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Absolutely wild.
Do you do fantasy sports at all?
Yes, I actually, just before I hopped on here and as I was waiting for my work to get finalized, I tweeted out, I was like, I kind of relate to Nico Harrison because I've made a trade in fantasy and I thought I did so well. And then everybody in the group chat laughed. And I know that feeling all too well. You win some, you lose some. I won fantasy last year, but there's a couple times where it's been like, what are you doing? What kind of trade is that? Yeah.
I was going to go the opposite direction, that you get approached by the Nico Harrison in your fantasy league. And it's like,
oh, right. Yeah.
You're offering me Josh Allen for my second best wide receiver.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, you got him. Like, okay, sure, I'll take him. And it's just It's like, boom, there. I got the 3 best wide receivers. I'm set. And it's like, yeah, but you gave up Josh Allen. What are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway, it's always good to see you. It's always good to see how you're doing over just in the industry, and to check in with RJ and IQ. We only talk about IQ again. He's played 10 games.
Yeah. Give it next time, whenever they play again.
Yeah. I know Knicks fans, they're not this year. This is the 4th time. Okay. But I know Knicks fans will be excited to see both RJ and IQ in this game. Unfortunately for Raptors fans, it doesn't look like they're going to see OG, although according to Tibbs, if Tibbs had his way, he would play. So we'll see what happens. Before you get out of here, let the fine folks at home know where they can find you, what you're doing for the deadline, all your stuff.
Yeah, man, we actually have a trade deadline live show on The Athletic. So if you guys are interested, hop on in, come chat with us. We literally going to be up and at 'em from 7:30 in the morning all the way until the deadline. So lots of talking, I got my water and tea prepped with me, but yes, I appreciate you as always, Drew. Appreciate it.
As always, man. By the way, you know who your 10:45 guest is on the NBA Daily Live on Thursday?
Oh, are you hopping in? There you go.
Yes, sir. Shout out to other Andrew, Mr. Schlecht.
Mr. Schlecht, yeah.
Look forward to jumping on. Hopefully I'm a little more prepared than like Mitchell Robinson for Chris Boucher shrug. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna be there at 10:40, so I'll see you there.
Hell yeah. That roles will be reversed in that situation.
Yes.
I will promise not to be as reckless about Nico Harrison.
No, it's okay. We need the recklessness. Actually,
well, then good. I will be as reckless as I can, because I probably won't be over it by then. It's always good to see you. Thank you for joining me. And thank you to everybody that tuned in for another edition of the Knicks Film School pregame show. If you dug it, please head over to iTunes, drop a 5-star rating and a review. As far as what Knicks Film School is doing, we will be live from 2 to 4 on trade deadline day. Jeremy's also got another episode of Cap Rules Everything Around Me Cream going live on Wednesday night. Time to be determined. We're going to work out a schedule soon. I will be back with another pregame pod on Friday after the dust has settled from the trade deadline to preview the next matchup against the Boston Celtics at the Real Garden in New York on Saturday night. But until next time, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy the game tonight, and I'll speak with you soon. Peace.